meters, but their quest is futile. It's a living nightmare. Most of those trapped are unconscious within minutes. It's now 11 o'clock. As the scale of the catastrophe grows, firefighters from the French town of Chamonix scramble to enter the tunnel. But they manage to travel less than 4 kilometers before their vehicle is engulfed by the wall of smoke. Unable to turn it around, they're forced to abandon it and seek shelter in a maintenance room where they'll remain for 5 hours. Still, no emergency services managed to reach the center of the blaze. Now the first rescuers enter from the Italian side, where the smoke is spreading more slowly. John Whitby is still by his lorry when he sees them.
The wail of sirens came down the tube, and they screamed past us down into the darkness ahead. And they were sort of swallowed up by the smoke, actually.
The Italian volunteer rescuers get within 300 meters, but one patrolman gets within 10 meters of the lorry before a new danger forces them all to turn back.
There were 6 explosions in rapid succession, which were just bang, 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 very quick, and they were very powerful explosions.
Tires from the vehicles explode. They send deadly shrapnel flying.
The tunnel walls shook with the force of the explosion. Within a minute or two of that happening, the fire brigade were back.
As they retreat, the Italians rescue John Whitby and other drivers. Among them is Gilbert de Grave, the driver of the lorry that starts the Inferno. They exit the tunnel on the Italian side. They've all made a miraculous escape. It's 11:11. Italian firefighters enter the tunnel to try to tackle the blaze. Leading them is Fire Chief Dionigi Glari.
We could see in the distance a wall of smoke that we tried to penetrate with our vehicle.
But again, the smoke is too thick, and Glari and his team are forced to retreat. They seek shelter in refuge number 24, one of the tunnel's fireproof rooms, where they'll be safe for 2 hours. But for these firefighters, the drama isn't over. They receive word about some colleagues who are trapped, but where? Bravely, Glari and his team leave the safety of Refuge 24 and head out into the smoke to try to find them.
We were walking in the tunnel with one hand along the walls so as to find our way. Reaching the next refuge, we entered, looked around and found there was no one there.
The conditions worsen, and after 10 minutes the firefighters are forced back to Refuge 24 to find to their disbelief that the smoke-proof room now offers them little protection.
We saw smoke coming from the ventilation vents that should send clean air into the refuge.
With their breathing apparatus running on empty, they're desperately short of air. Outside, the operation commander hatches a plan. The trapped firefighters are told that beneath the road is a ventilation duct full of fresh air which may offer a means of escape. The problem is finding the door without getting lost in the smoke.
To reach this doorway, we had to use an electrical extension lead that we tied to the door of the refuge and then went to look for the doorway.
At the same time, more Italian firefighters are sent in through the ventilation duct to try to open the door from below.
The moment they opened that door, that was the moment I glimpsed a possibility of escape.
The rescuers become the rescued. After 3 hours, Glari and his team are able to escape through the ventilation duct. But what they don't know is that 38 people are still trapped inside a tunnel where temperatures reach over 1,000 degrees. (11:30). 37 minutes after the lorry erupts in flames, the dense, deadly smoke now stretches more than 6 kilometers, filling the tunnel all the way to the French exit. Firefighters abandon all efforts to attack the flames. No one in the tunnel has a chance of survival. Such is the ferocity of the fire that it burns for 53 hours. Only then can firefighters pick their way through the charred debris. They're horrified to discover the remains of the 38 trapped people. These pictures reveal the true extent of the horror. Those who survive, like Nicholas Borghi, are astonished at the fire's ferocity.
More shocking is that the heat had melted the steel in the lorries. You could only see the basis of the lorries, the skeleton. What could have happened to those poor people left in there?
The disaster takes everyone by surprise. How could such a catastrophe occur here? How could an ordinary lorry carrying an ordinary load of margarine and flour end up causing one of the worst road tunnel disasters on record? From the moment the lorry enters the tunnel, it takes just 14 minutes for 38 people to perish. Now we rewind the events of that fateful day and go deep into the investigation to reveal what really happened. Advanced computer simulation will take us where no camera can go, into the heart of the disaster zone. A team of experts is assembled to investigate the fire. Using their data, we can piece together the deadly chain of events to find out what caused this terrible tragedy. The first mystery facing the experts is what starts the fire in the lorry. They trace the lorry's journey on its approach to the tunnel. This is where problems could first occur. Lorries frequently overheat on the long climb up to the tunnel entrance. Investigators examine the remains of the Volvo lorry. Is there a fault with the FH12 engine? After intensive tests, they find no conclusive evidence of overheating. Then, a breakthrough. The investigators find particles inside the engine that can only have got there if the air filter had burnt before the main fire. But how could the air filter have burnt first? One theory is that a casually discarded cigarette from a passing vehicle enters the lorry's air filter on top of the cabin. The cigarette travels down to the filter, which catches fire. Particles then enter the engine, causing that to catch fire and thus starting the blaze. It's a strong possibility. Investigators then carry out an experiment on a similar lorry in similar conditions. Although not conclusive, it proves a cigarette butt entering the air filter could cause a fire. But that in itself is not enough to cause a tragedy on the scale of the Mont Blanc Tunnel fire. So how did this small fire turn into a raging inferno? Deep in the Mont Blanc Tunnel, a minor fire suddenly goes out of control. In 14 minutes, 38 people perish. Using advanced computer graphics based on the official reports, we go deep into the investigation to unravel the chain of deadly events. Investigators believe it starts with a small fire smoldering in the engine beneath the cab. 14 minutes from disaster, de Grave enters the tunnel. But the fire only erupts after he stops and abandons his vehicle. Could the movement of air prevent the fire taking hold? Experts know that lorry fires can develop more quickly when vehicles slow down or stop, because then the supply of oxygen increases, which feeds the fire. Ed Galea is a fire expert.
There was a recent example where a bus had caught fire in an alpine tunnel, and the bus driver continued driving, managed to get the vehicle through the tunnel to the other side, managed to evacuate the vehicle, and then the bus erupted into flames.
Perhaps if de Grave had continued driving, he could have made it to the end of the tunnel before the fire flared up. But he didn't. 7 minutes from disaster, he stops halfway through the tunnel. Almost immediately, the lorry bursts into flames. But why did it spread so quickly? Underneath the refrigerated trailer, just meters from the flames, are the lorry's diesel tanks. Investigators realize that in previous lorry fires, diesel is a contributing factor. Did diesel from de Grave's lorry fuel the fire? Didier Lacroix has studied hundreds of fires and knows where to look.
The difference between this fire and the 17 fires that had occurred before was that it started very quickly. They spread to 34 vehicles.
But Lacroix discovers that de Grave's lorry is only carrying 550 liters of diesel. His tank is only half full. It can't explain the rapid spread of the fire. Lacroix digs deeper. He re-examines every second of the lorry's journey from the moment it enters the tunnel. His team turn their attention to the contents of the refrigerated trailer. It's only carrying 9 tons of margarine and 12 tons of flour, a seemingly harmless load. They're not even classified as dangerous goods. But with little else to go on, they begin to experiment with the cargo.
One of the things we discovered was that goods that are not classified officially as dangerous can lead to a very serious fire.
Here, a simple demonstration shows how 1 ton of margarine simulates the cargo. It's wrapped in polystyrene sheets, the same insulation material lining the refrigerated trailer. After just 2 minutes, it proves to be a highly combustible combination.
In refrigerated vans, you have polyurethane, and when this burns, it produces a lot of heat. It can burn very rapidly. When the margarine melts due to the fire, it's an oil-based material, and it will also rapidly burn, producing quite a lot of heat.
Margarine has a very high energy content. Incredibly, when it's melted, it's almost as dangerous as petrol. Our experiment shows how dangerous things can be in the open air. But fire experts know that in the confines of tunnels, fires burn much more intensely because there are limited outlets for the heat to escape.